Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making millions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. And how are you?
I'm good.
You know, a lot of the times we will talk about burnout in the first responder realm, and it could have a lot to do with what's taking place at work as a first responder. But recently I came across somebody, he's an artist. He's actually in a really, really popular band, and he's wanted a position as a police officer for a very long time. And you can tell how heartfelt this post was when he broke down and he said that I finally got the position that I've been working so hard for, despite having years of building up this band and the fame, the notoriety, and the joy that this band has served me well with. However, because I got this position as a first responder, in the first responder realm that I wanted for so long, I'm stepping back and I'm no longer going to be a part of this band. And it got me thinking about how interesting it is that the obvious type of burnout that he was experiencing wasn't worth the sacrifice anymore, especially now because he got this position that he's been wanting for a very long time.
Yeah, and I think burnout looks so different for so many different people. And the hardest thing, especially when you're in it, is recognizing that you are burnt out and finding avenues to get out of that stage of burnout to where you're going to have these obvious signs of sleep deprivation, of just tired all the time and not wanting to do your normal day-to-day stuff. But there's also some hidden ones that you don't necessarily always recognize. And it's important to do the self-check on a regular basis to be able to understand, am I burnt out or am I just kind of tired from what I'm currently doing?
Yeah, and I want to talk about the kind of burnout that doesn't always announce itself with collapse or tears or some kind of dramatic breaking point. I want to talk about that slow, quiet burnout that builds under discipline and professionalism and the I'm fines until one day you realize that your joy is gone, maybe your patience is thin, and your sense of purpose feels hollow.
Yeah, when you start having those signs, like it's if you can recognize it before you get to that point of you almost having a self-diagnosis of, well, what's creating this? What's causing this for myself? Because when you start recognizing that, you can start making those changes, adapting to what it is that's truly causing that burnout.
This is the kind of burnout that basically hides behind high performance and dark humor, those long hours, the doing what needs to be done without complaining. I think the kind that sneaks up on first responders who still show up, they're still functioning and leading, but internally they're just running on fumes.
And I think it's not only important to recognize that for yourself, but recognize it within your partners too. Is like, hey, you look tired today. Is there something I can do to support you? And it's almost being there for one another to help build them up and support them and what's going on and reaching out to one another.
I want to talk about the psychological concept of allostatic load. And it basically refers to this wear and tear on your body and your brain that's caused by chronic stress. And when stress is never fully discharged, then the nervous system stays activated, and slowly it just becomes emotionally, physically, and cognitively exhausting.
And when we start feeling that, it's like I can think of specific incidents of overtime where, you're going 110 miles an hour all the time and you never slow down a little bit. And Ashley's called me out on this multiple times, is like, hey, you need to calm down a little bit because you're up here right now and you need to bring it back down to where your normal level is at. Because when you start operating at that speed and at that level all the time, you're, one, going to burn yourself out, but two, you're going to miss things. You're not going to be as effective as you hope you are.
Yeah, we'll use that as an example. There was a big political event that you had worked so hard for, and the event finally came. It was in the midst of things, and you were still running and operating like people were still about to show up when, it was midway through. And we had that conversation. And when you have a buildup of something, especially in that anticipation takes place, it can be very, very hard to tone things down a little bit.
Yeah, and it's having that reset button, being able to have someone call you out on it and saying, hey, chill out, everything's fine, everything's going the way it's supposed to be going, and just slow down a minute, because you need to also enjoy the moment that you're in, because you work so hard to operate an event like this, and you need to enjoy it too.
For a lot of people, I think that burnout often looks like emotional flatness instead of emotion, maybe irritability without a clear cause for it, decreased tolerance for mistakes or noise. I know I have definitely been guilty of that. Sleep that never feels restorative, or a sense that everything feels heavier than it really should.
And I think with having those signs, you're getting to the point of where you need to take a mental health day. Take a day to where you have nothing planned, you have nothing going on, to where you could just say, you know what? Because ultimately, no matter what it is, it's still going to be there tomorrow. Whatever, if you're working at a job and you have a huge caseload that you're carrying, it's still going to be there tomorrow. What's going to happen if you don't get it done today?
I think that a lot of people need to be able to recognize the signs of burnout, and especially when it's starting to be building underneath the surface. And one of them is that you're still performing, but you're no longer enjoying it.
And that's the perfect example of having that political event, to where I wasn't able to just sit back and enjoy everything that's going on, because I still felt like I had so much to do. I still had so much going on, to where I wasn't actually able to enjoy an event that I worked so hard to create.
For some people too, like, think about it as a first responder. You work so hard to get to the position that you're at. But for a lot of people, they might feel disconnected from the meaning. So things like calls might blur together, or any kind of wins or victories could feel totally empty.
Because I think when they start meshing all together and we don't have those victories, and it's celebrating those victories, even if you're not feeling like it was a victory, you got to celebrate it. And it's funny because my old team, when I was doing the crimes against children stuff, we served a warrant with them recently, and they're like, where's the warrant cake? Because I used to do things of hey, after we do these warrants, I would just come back to the station and I would have a cake. And it was not a celebration per se, but it was just to get us out of the routine of doing the day-to-day actions that we do. And it's funny because I literally would get it written on there, Happy Search Warrant Day. And it was stuff like that broke up that monotony, and it broke up that burnout that we would all ultimately feel.
I think too that a lot of people have their patience running a lot shorter than it used to be. And it's not just anger, but it could be total depletion.
When you have nothing to give anymore, and it's, you fill up your cup so much, it's just overflowing, and pretty much your cup gets knocked over and you can't fill it up, is you're not able to function at the high level that you typically do.
Something you mentioned was a way to be able to intervene before burnout becomes collapse, and it was taking a mental health day. And I think it's so important to acknowledge your fatigue without labeling it as weakness. So tapping out for the day and saying like, you don't have to say I'm taking a mental health day, but just deciding, you know what, I need some time to restore myself, and considering it as a fact of you not being lazy. You're not taking a day off every single month to be lazy. You're literally identifying that this is going to allow you to show up the next day and be even stronger and better to be able to get the rest that you need first.
And that's why I think it's so important to have those hobbies, have those outside of work kind of things that you do, because if you have those and you use that day just to do the mindless tasks, the mindless activities to where you're not worrying about what you have to do at work, and you don't have a to-do list that you're always trying to stay caught up on, because to-do lists are great to have, but if you're always trying to work at that to-do list, it's never going to end.
I like that you said that, because it's so important to create meaning outside of the role, and creating these identity buffers is so important to be able to have that distinguishment, but then make sure that you don't go too hard on one or the other.
Yeah, you want to have balance with anything and everything that you always do. It's not going all in on one thing, because when you go all in on one thing, you're going to burn yourself out on doing that. And that's where it's being able to switch tasks and be able to have those avenues and outlets to be able to fill up your own cup.
You can rebuild recovery as a skill and not as a reward. However, for me, I use reward systems a lot when it comes to my recovery. So if I do this, then I get that as a reward. And I think having something like that to be able to kind of help with regulation, it allows you to understand that it can be trained and not postponed.
Yeah, and I think it's a really great way to do things if you have that reward system in place, because when you're getting your task done, but then you're giving yourself that reward to be able to say, okay, here's that mental reset time that I need.
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.